Hello, everyone. This is Thomas Pepin NHL Talk. I'm Thomas Pepin, and let's talk about the NHL. So, my apologies for being slightly late. What happened was I went to make the video I promised I would make, and then my recording software decided to change, and then everything didn't work right, and so I had to spend time fixing that. So anyways, so that's what happened. But what I mentioned yesterday I was going to talk about was um, some changes to strategy and structure that I thought um, in effect it would be coaches but also GMs would consider. And I decided, I mean, to be honest, I can't really contribute anything of significance because I can't, or the data is too hard to gather, or I don't have access, um, or it's not good enough to actually be able to answer the question. So, anyways, long story short, I was considering the ideas of um, going four forwards, one defense for 5-on-5, three defense, one forward for penalty kill, um, and some other different variations similar to that for different things. So, like maybe three defense for uh, when you're two men short. So there's stuff like that I was going to see if there's any way to find data and then analyze and consider those as different strategies that might be better. But yeah, I looked through the available data, and like I said, it's either not there, it's extremely difficult to find, or there's not sufficient data, or all of the above, and I don't know. So it's just not worth it for me to try to get into because it's way too much of a stretch, and I probably wouldn't get a result anyways. Um, so that's what I was going to talk about, but as you can see, I covered it in like a minute. And so, what's the point in doing that for a video? That would be far too short. So, it's just not worth considering um, as a standalone video. So, uh, this kind of came out of nowhere as a subject to talk about. So, I've noticed I think I saw it on Reddit that this was trending. People were talking about um, NHL expansion and different teams that could work and things like that. And I was like, okay, well, why not consider that? Because in particular, they were talking about Atlanta, and I saw Houston elsewhere, but I don't know if that's one I'm necessarily going to discuss. But essentially, the plan is to, well, begin first with franchises that failed, and see if any of those could succeed. And two, I was going to maybe have a look to see about other locations that could maybe potentially succeed. So that's kind of, I guess, the overall plan. Now, just to backtrack, the beginning part, what I'm going to do here, not today, but the first few streams, I want to establish a baseline. And so, what I'm going to do is consider teams that have failed and came back as a baseline way to compare the potential of previously failing franchises coming back. So have a look at some maybe underlying data, whatever's available. And this is not going to be scientific. It's going to be more, you could call it anecdotal, superficial, however you want to describe it, but enough that's of interest and where there's some sort of data to back the um, justification of my judgment, and all that kind of stuff. So in effect, that's going to mean taking a look at Winnipeg, Colorado, and Minnesota. I think we're the three. Just give me a sec to double check. Yeah, so we're going to consider those three franchises, how they failed, not how they failed, but that they did in fact fail, and then that they came back, and to see again about some what might be superficial data, to take a look at that and see if there's any indicators you can draw from it and apply to these previously failing franchises, and see if any of them could conceivably work. Again, just, generally speaking. So that's kind of the plan. So first, failures to success, previous failures, evaluating, and then other potential ones to consider. So that's kind of the structure of the series. From my plan so far, it looks like about 15 parts, and thankfully so, because I was starting to run out of subjects, because this is not easy coming up with unique content, doing it on the spot on top of it, and stuff that's not necessarily so simple to address, answer, describe, whatever. So yeah, I'm just thankful because I know exactly, more or less, the content that's going to happen all through the playoffs. But up until the playoffs, I was like, and I came up with an idea yesterday, and I had set out a whole plan that would cover me straight to the playoffs. But the problem is that I didn't find it interesting enough. So what I was going to do is take a look at prospects, not prospects, go through different professional leagues and try to, pick out some players that I would already assume are being scouted, but should be scouted and considered for NHL franchises. So I was going to go through a whole bunch of those, and then I was just like, of what significance is it? I don't know. Maybe I could do that still. I mean, it's not a bad idea. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like something I want to do right now. And maybe I will in the future. But anyways. So, anyways, so that's where I'm at with things. And I guess we'll just get started. If you keep any track of my my channel homepage and upcoming streams, I had this whole week scheduled in. What I've done instead is to delete all those. Reason being because I decided that I'm going to do this series, and it makes it way easier on me in terms of creating the streams, I guess, where I just duplicate ones that have already taken place. So I'll do this one, duplicate it 15 times. I'll probably start with just 10 or something like that. 12 the next 2 weeks worth. Yeah, so if you're wondering why they were deleted, it's not because I'm not streaming. It's just because it's going to be easier on me. So anyways, yeah, just wanted to touch on that. And so in today's stream, so I'm introducing the series. I already have done that. The plan, already have done that. And brainstorming ideas. So I think I pretty much have the ideas set, but what I'm going to do is maybe write down. So, um, what I did with the GM series is created a plan brainstorming document and referenced that not too frequently, but enough throughout the whole series. But it gave me some sort of written baseline. So I probably will do the same. I don't think there's going to be any crazy brainstorms. Like, this probably will be a short stream, all things considered, in comparison to other streams. But yeah. Anyways, so that's what I'll do now, and we might as well get started. Now, one thing, just keep in mind, I don't know for certain that my software is going to work right. So if I have difficulties, I'm going to soon discover. But yeah, so I have to switch between, like, as I have previously, where I switch between screens and stuff. I don't know if it's going to work right, but we'll see here in a sec. So I'm just pulling up one reference thing and getting a document ready. So just a sec to do that. We want this. Okay. That. Good. So I think I can share screen now, and hopefully this works. I'm going to pretend as if it has, and I'm going to kind of get started. So one thing that I'm going to use is, I might as well just documents the main thing. So baseline, and it does look like it worked. I don't know if it's the same. I might have changed the size of my video within the share screen, but whatever. Sorry if I'm too big now, too small now. I think I'm bigger, so I don't think it's worse. Baseline teams. We want failed franchises, and we want okay, so that's kind of the structure. Now actually, I don't even really need that. Whatever. Let's just leave it like that. Okay, so one is, so as you can see there, I just put methods. So it's essentially going to be the methods of evaluating. So attendance is one, as you'll see on the side there. I have one source I was considering. I don't know if that's going to be my primary source. I'm going to have a look. ESPN used to have a really good page for it, but I think they've discontinued it. In recent times when I checked it, it hasn't been working. So, but we'll see. We want to consider attendance, population. The other thing I was thinking, it's funny because so oftentimes the subjects or considerations within the subjects, I brainstorm them just randomly in random spots. So I was thinking when it comes to some of the methods to evaluate in the shower, was thinking about hockey registration. I believe there should be numbers by geography. And this can be done as a proxy for fan base or potential fan base. Actually, it should be more specific. Youth hockey registration. Another thing I was thinking about considering is so number of NHLers by geography. So as an example, I know Connecticut had a lot of players in, I believe, the 90s, early thousands, I believe. I'm just trying to match this up with because when I was playing NHL, the game most often was, well, in my youth, and that was the time frame. I think it was, yeah. So for example, what was it? Drury is from Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Trumbull, Connecticut. So he's the first one that comes to mind. So, yeah, it's something cool that I used to do. So when I was a kid, I made, what would you call it? A fantasy league, I guess you could call it. I think there was a term for it on NHL, the game, where I would have teams based on geography. So rather than the U.S., it would be like northeastern states and or actually that couldn't be fair because back in those days it was all northeastern states. So yeah, it would have been something like Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, Michigan, stuff like that. So where it would be each state would have its own team, and Canada, same story, like Quebec, Ontario, BC, Alberta, stuff like that. So, anyways, I forget why I started talking about that. But oh yeah, well, players by geography. I just thought it was an interesting tidbit, I guess. So we want attendance / past attendance. What I could look at is past NHL attendance or AHL / ECHL. Yeah. So I didn't think about that before. So, good. So attendance, population, youth hockey, NHLers. Is there anything else? And the problem is that I need these established to begin, so I can't miss something. Now, the one thing, so what I'm not going to take a look at is so stuff like population income. It's just like, to be honest, it's North America. Everybody can afford to go to a hockey game. Now, obviously, that's not the case, but you know what I mean. Like, we're highly developed, well, two countries, and it's just, I mean, in reality, most people could conceivably afford, assuming there's enough population. So I won't take a look at that because the differences are going to be negligible, and I don't think it's worth it. Another thing that, in theory, I could consider is local industry. So things like people that could sponsor the team or advertise with the team, who could, I forget, I don't know exactly how it works because I haven't looked into it enough. And to be honest, I'm not interested unless I'm being, paid as a general manager or owner or something along those lines. It doesn't really matter that much to me. But like, what is it? Luxury box. I think they're either owned or rented, or I think essentially it's rented. But they might call it owned. I don't know. Anyway, so not going to consider local industry because it's like, again, we're developed countries, Canada and the States. I mean, there's plenty of businesses. As long as you choose a population base that's large enough, then there's going to be enough industry to support that kind of stuff, you would hope or expect. So I'm not going to consider that. And again, this isn't perfectly scientific. It's more anecdotal, more for the fun of discussion. And I don't want to kill it with too much analysis. Because a lot of the stuff, so a chunk of my streams, you're watching me do calculations, and like, as much as I'm not going to stop doing that, because for one, it's good for people to see the work. And second, I mean, again, the plan is I'm going to be doing work while other people are chatting and stuff. I'm just not going to stop doing that if it requires data. But like, it's nice to do some stuff where it's just talking as opposed to just, playing around with Excel spreadsheets and stuff. It's just, it's not so exciting and not so fun either. So, yeah. So anyway, so not perfectly scientific, just going to kind of reference things and consider. It's more going to be like taking averages, and so very simple math. What else? Well, let's just do an internet search and see if anything gives some more ideas. Yeah, so there's this trend right now about hints of Atlanta and Houston. I don't think Atlanta would be up there. I mean, who knows? They've tried it twice already. Who's not to say that they're going to try it again? Houston, I mean, Dallas has done fine, and I don't know the population of Houston offhand, but I know it's large, and I'm sure it could support it. I don't know how far it is from Dallas, and, well, you would want it. Well, San Antonio's the other big population base. I don't know Texas super well, but I'm pretty sure those are the top three. So, yeah, I don't know proximity wise. Well, hey, let's look it up. since we're talking about it. So Houston is there. San Antonio, Dallas. I like the spot. Oh yeah, Austin. I forgot about that. But Austin, I believe, is smaller. Houston. Population is 2.2 million. San Antonio, 1.45. Dallas is... Wow, I didn't realize Dallas was that small in comparison. So wait, so San Antonio is even bigger than Dallas. Wow. So then, what's Austin? Just out of interest. Whoops. Wow, it's bigger than I thought. So they're all like a million-ish. I guess San Antonio is what, double Austin? Huh, that's interesting. And what's the distance? We want... to San Antonio, 200 miles. What was the next one I was going to check? So Houston to Dallas, it's got to be 250 or something like that. 240. Austin to Dallas is 200. Wow, so there's enough space between that San Antonio or Houston are not bad ideas. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, they try to target something like, 200 kilometers, miles, I think. Essentially, I mean, they're not the same size, but I think essentially same difference, 200 of something. Yeah, so I think the spacing makes sense. Doesn't Houston have problems with like hurricanes and stuff like that? Maybe something further in ground would be better. But maybe, Houston's bigger, clearly. Anyways, I'm kind of getting into the weeds, but we'll continue this consideration another time. Because that's the plan, maybe, to consider Houston. I must now because it's what the rumors are saying. So, so at least, upon first view, it's an idea. But anyways, I guess, sorry, off track there. So that's where the rumor and the idea came from. And now we were going to check about criteria. Huh? That's not what. You don't want draft. Yeah, see it. There's no plan for the league to expand, but of course there always is a plan for the league to expand. By the way, absolutely Canada could support another franchise without question. Where that is a question. I know. So if New York was able to do more or less 3, because if you add in New Jersey, because New Jersey is quite close, right? If they can have that many franchises so close, I mean, I would have to, contrast the populations, but Toronto's huge. It can at least handle one more. That's for certain. Where, I don't know necessarily where it would make the most sense. I'd probably model it after New York, considering the distance between the Rangers, Islanders, and New Jersey. And I don't know offhand how close they are. I don't know my geography too well there. But if I had to guess, they're probably all similarly distanced from each other. So you'd kind of want a similar distance if you're going to do it in the GTA, Greater Toronto Area, if you're not familiar with the term. Anyways. Population, ownership, geography. Let's see if this has it. How does this not have population? Maybe let's just do that. We want that. Let's see if they have something. Market size. Yes, I want more factors. Business factor. Building. That's true. I didn't think about that. But then I have to go in and consider current buildings. They can make a building. I mean, yeah, I could go look at where all the NBA buildings are, because they almost always have NBA and NHL in the same building. But yeah, I don't. Mass into blah blah blah. No, I think that's all. Like, I mean, there's not really much else, it seems, to consider. Or there's There's nothing else. I lost track of what I was saying in the sentence as I was saying the sentence. Uh, yeah, I don't think there's other criteria I need to consider, it seems like. Um, well, I'm going to go back to this other one here. I don't know this site, but. Oh, it's one of SB nations, so that makes sense. Population, income, like I said, I mean, everybody's relatively wealthy in North America. I don't think that's crazy significant. I mean, you're not going to put in the poorest city in the United States or Canada. I mean, obviously. But beyond that, I mean, really. See, and this one that gets left out is local corporation. Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, there's businesses everywhere. Um, Location, accessibility. See, like that kind of stuff I think is getting too much into the weeds for me. If I was actually trying to establish criteria for the NHL or to, I was part of a potential ownership group and we were trying to justify our potential relocation to our city or whatever, then maybe, but don't need to get into the science. Medium income, yeah. Travel times, ticket prices, frequency. Um, yeah, and this person's even justifying how they're not going to do more work. Ha ha ha. See? Not so crazy. Yeah. So I think that's it. I think we'll pretty much end the methods of evaluating there. It should be relatively simple to find and well, I forgot to check if you can see all the writing, but you can, so that's good. So I think that's it. I should be able to find it all because I believe youth hockey registration is recorded for the states. It must be. I'm like, I would be shocked if it wasn't for Canada. Let's move this over anyways. Population. I think that's it. But I like the idea that I reminded. I didn't necessarily have it in mind originally, but reminded that it existed, I guess, about AHL and ECHL attendance. That wasn't in my original thoughts, so I'm glad I thought of that. I think that's it. Um, One other thing, yeah, I might as well write this down somewhere. Past attendance, population. youth hockey. NHL, where am I putting this? So I'll just save that with that part. So essentially, what I mean by that is, so we've got the annual team valuation. So if we consider kind of where they sit across the whole league, then that way we have an idea of the. So if we can contrast the value of the team with other teams, then we can contrast the value between teams, attendance between teams that exist. So the baseline teams that I've already spoken of with other current teams. If we can contrast that and then as a proxy use attendance and maybe population, we'll figure out some sort of way maybe to use both, and then use the baseline teams with either the teams that have failed or the potential teams, because then you have criteria that kind of, you can't do valuation to either non-existent valuation or the teams that failed, we just probably have no information on their financial performance because they're all way back. So then it gives us some sort of like connecting criteria that can allow us to evaluate. So I think that's how we'll do it then. Yeah, and anyway, so I think that's it. I don't think there's much more to talk about. I could, in theory, come up with other ways. I mean, there's like other things like I could do. So where you've got other professional teams in a city and different locations share. I should switch back just to full visual. So like, for example, you've got the Toronto Raptors and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So Raptors from NBA and Maple Leafs from hockey. And then you could compare that with, Dallas has the Dallas Stars and Dallas Mavericks, I believe, is for NBA. I don't watch basketball anymore, or even highlights anymore for sports, except for hockey. So let's say, as a concept, let's say that there's a basketball team in a prospective city and no hockey team, and then there's one place with a hockey team and a basketball team, then you can kind of contrast. Well, if the basketball team does well in terms of attendance and the hockey team does well, then conceivably, if you put a hockey team where a basketball team is, they could conceivably work. Now, I mean, that's not a good scientific way to do it because, well, it could be a basketball market and not a hockey market, but as a concept, so of potential viewers. So anyways, there's stuff like that I could do. I'll probably just look at those kind of things anecdotally and very superficially, because this is more of a thought experiment and simple numbers evaluation. We're not getting into anything complicated. It's just not, I don't get paid to do it, so I'm not going to do something stupid. Yeah. So anyway, so I think that's it. I don't think there's more to talk about. That's kind of the plan. So again, just to recap, So we're going to start with looking at teams that failed, came back, and at least to this point have been successful. Then we're going to take a look at teams that have failed and see in a general way, could they conceivably succeed if they came back? And then again, finally, we'll go and consider locations that haven't been attempted but have the characteristics where they could conceivably work. So that's the plan for this series. There's a bunch of different teams that have failed that people might not be aware of. Of course, you could look that up if you want, but this is more of a teaser to say there's going to be some interesting things that I didn't even know until today when I started to have a brief look of teams that existed that I didn't even know they ever existed. And so we can have a look at what their history was and stuff like that and consider if they could succeed in a second attempt. So one, for example, California Seals. And as long as I saw correctly and am remembering on the spot correctly, it was in Oakland. So could a team work in Oakland? That'll be interesting to take a look at. So anyway, so that's the plan for this series. I think that's all for today. Hope you guys tune in to the whole series. I think it's going to be very interesting and fun to go over, so I hope you guys will too. So anyways, if you like the stream, hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe, turn on notifications. Otherwise, channel homepage has upcoming streams. For the remainder of this week, it's 2 p.m. Eastern daily, except for Sundays. This coming Sunday. Then next week, as a reminder, we're going to 3 p.m. Eastern because of the time change. And that's what we're going to have moving forward for the rest of the season. Until the next time change or until I change my mind about when I'm going to do it. So, so that's the plan. Any comments, leave them in the comments. Suggestions, same thing. And so tomorrow we'll get started. And again, a teaser, we will start with actually, that's a good question. Who should we start with? We'll start with the most valuable franchise that failed and came back. And I don't know which one that is yet. I'll have to take a look and figure that out. But it's one of Winnipeg, Colorado, or Minnesota. So just to keep that in mind, tomorrow we'll be talking about one of those to start. So hope you tune in tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in if you tuned in today, and we'll see you tomorrow.